All right. Are you really going to sit there and eat a Subway sandwich during?
You booked me up, so yes, go.
Okay, so today's podcast is brought to you by Subway, that Easton's eating.
Eat fresh.
We do not
They don't
endorse their former endorser.
They don't do
Which
Eat
one?
Fresh anymore.
The one that got in trouble for touching kids or something.
What the?
I didn't know that was a thing.
I thought
Okay.
Why do you think they went to Peyton Manning? Because they were like, we need the most clean, non-issued person on the face of the earth. Call Peyton Manning.
Are you sure you're not talking about Barney?
Yes, I looked him up earlier, and he did drugs. Didn't touch the kids.
Barney?
The
Yes.
purple guy?
Oh.
Yeah.
The purple
He
dinosaur?
got arrested.
He was a pedophile, I thought.
Which I was talking to Sarah earlier, and she had a great point. She's like, wouldn't you be doing drugs if you had to jump and
You were
get into a
purple
Barney's?
dinosaur.
Yeah, with a bunch of kids. I would be. Another shift.
So this is so the wacky facts have already come out. If you didn't know that Barney was a drug addict.
Yeah, the Subway dude got arrested, too. You don't remember the Jared guy?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he got arrested as well.
Okay.
And then that's why they had Peyton Manning all the time, because they're like, worst thing about Peyton Manning, he's got a long neck,
No, he's got a big forehead.
long head.
He's just got a weird head.
Okay.
Maybe that's why he throws the ball so well. He can just see
Are
different ways.
you going to shut up so that I can introduce this so we can get started? All right. That's enough from them. So welcome back to the Raised Hunting Podcast, because today's topic is kind of fun. But I'm joined today by the two other, I don't know what you call them because I'm not supposed to call
totally
them
screwed
special
him up.
guests. No more special guests. They're really tired of that. So my proteges, there you go.
Ooh, we're French. Protégé.
Yeah.
Kind of like you being a fiance.
I'm not a fiance, you did. Oh, wait, am I?
Yeah,
Yes, you are.
It's the same?
Yeah.
That's the stupidest thing ever.
Warren hates the word fiance.
It is a dumb word.
But that is how Alyssa will describe you anymore, my fiance.
No.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Just
today
call
we're
me
going to
her
talk a
hump.
little bit about where
Big old
Warren does his
man.
wacky facts. We'll save that to the end. But today we're going to talk about fact or fiction when it comes to whitetails and comes to hunting. We've had a lot of people send in so many different topics, and we're trying to cover a handful of them all at one time. But we want to thank you guys again for all of the reviews that you're doing on Spotify, on Apple, on YouTube. I don't know who's in the lead anymore. I can't keep track of it, but
It's still Spotify. Spotify is well on their way to 200, which Apple went way over 100, though. So thank you guys on Apple and the YouTube guys. We had somebody on there who's he said he loves listening to the podcast, and he's from Oregon. So don't hate him because he's from Oregon, which as long as you're not in Portland, I think we'll give you a pass. But appreciate all you guys for listening and sending those reviews.
all right. So we're going to apologize right from the beginning because Easton is eating his lunch.
I'm done.
Oh, now he's going to try to finish up. All right, but Warren, let's go with the first one, man. What are we, fact or fiction? And I will preface this with, we may not all agree on these. I mean, it may be at the end of the day we don't agree. So this is a great one for people to listen to and shoot their review back in or comment back in.
Well, that should make this whole thing interesting because this entire thing is a conundrum. Because we're
job,
doing
Warren.
facts or fiction.
It's not a 10 under.
Facts or fiction based on opinions. You realize that?
Yeah, I know.
And shut up, because I was the runner-up in the 5th grade spelling bee,
How long
so
you
I
gonna-
have great vocab.
Well, you know, everybody used to give people crap for peaking in high school. It sure sounds like how much you bring that up. You peaked in 5th grade.
Well, how many times did I get 100 AR points? I did get to ride a limo to Dairy Queen and
Now
then
you're-
go to an NFL football game.
Now you're peaking in 3rd grade. You're making it worse.
No, that was 6th. So get you some.
Oh, man, he made it a year further.
Okay. Fact or fiction, hunting mornings in October does more damage than good or is a waste of time for the purpose of hunting big bucks.
Are we going to, go around and then explain?
Sure.
Fiction.
Let's start with that.
Oh, I already said mine.
I'm going to say fiction.
Okay? And why?
Well, I would say, number one, if I didn't hunt mornings, I would not have killed the buck I killed last year. That was 6 years old Brahma
What? But was that
on October
19th?
25th.
Okay, that's like late October.
Yeah, they
Okay.
We're
A lot of
more
people
so like
that
the
say
first
that.
2 weeks I think, isn't it? About.
I would say not like October 24th, 25th. You'd start getting to where people would argue with you that that they would say, yeah, at that time, yes, you need to be hunting mornings.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're talking 20th and before.
On. Yeah.
20th and before.
Or even 22nd, and we'll go 22nd and before.
I still come back to that it can happen at any time. So, granted, I do shoot does during that time of year because I don't depend a lot on. I see does come through. I know that there's probably not a buck following behind them. Where when you get later on in the season, you don't want to shoot a doe because maybe he may be tracking that doe.
Yeah.
And you can screw everything up. So anyhow, earlier than the 20th, fact or fiction, I'm going to say there's some fact to it. I mean, hunting mornings is for a big buck unless you have them patterned. Now, there's an exception to every rule, I guess, is what I would add to that. But in a general sense, I would say that there's some validity to hunting mornings early in October.
Okay.
For a big buck.
Okay.
Mine's fiction, mainly for what he just prefaced there. That I would say that if you're just hunting randomly, or you're going into some of your really good spots during the rut, or your really good places where you're having larger deer or more mature deer moving through later in the season, that, in my opinion, that's just putting pressure on something that you don't need to. Now, I would say that if you're hunting edges, you're hunting maybe not in those areas specifically, or places where you do know that a buck or some of your bigger deer are coming out of kind of thing, you're not like right in the heart of their core area. No, I don't think that's an issue whatsoever. As long as you're hunting it still with the right winds, you're still being careful as you would throughout the rest of the year. I don't see how that would be in effect if you're not really putting much pressure on them in the first place.
I think it's fiction. I think one of the best mornings I've ever had, one of the best hunts I've ever had in my life was October 14th. And that I know that because I should have killed Ralph that morning, which was a very large deer that we had. And October 14th, and I should have killed him October 7th in the morning. It was back-to-back. Well, not back-to-back, but, within a week, both super early, I should have killed that deer. And he just got really freaking lucky, and he's smart. That's the thing, is he's just smart. My argument to that would be to kill a big buck in the evening before that time. What do all these guys say?
What do you mean? What do they say?
They're not moving daylight.
No, they're saying
they're not saying, oh, it's 83 degrees and you can go out there and sit in the evening and kill one. They're saying you need a cold front, right? You need the right weather conditions. So I don't think that your chances of killing one in the afternoon is any better than it is in the morning until you have the right elements that are coming into play, unless you have some kind of property, where you can access deep into right near the bedding area and you got a food plot or even a water source or something like that for hot weather. But I think, in my opinion, mornings are always better than afternoons, 100% of the time. I don't care if it's the rut, if it's early season, if it's late season. Late season would be the only time I'd say that I'd probably prefer an afternoon to a morning. But mornings, I think I agree with Easton as far as I wouldn't be going in to certain areas unless I had a really good idea of what a particular buck was doing, and then I had the right weather where I feel like it was a cold front and that he's actually going to be up on his feet, and then I have a chance at catching him coming back. Because otherwise, I think during the first 2.5 weeks that they're spending most of their time, bedded or in the timber, mostly nocturnal, whether it's whether the weather's perfect or not.
Well, like I said, we're going to disagree. You both said fiction. I say fact. But again, I agree with you guys that if you have intel on a deer, one of my downfalls is that I don't use a lot of cellular cameras, if any. And so therefore I don't get real-time information. So that's something that I could see changing someone that would hunt mornings more. Matter of fact, I know of a big deer that was just killed because of cellular camera use. They knew that deer was leaving a certain area and going to do some stuff. So these deer are on their feet sometimes during daylight hours. Earlier, I will say that 100%. That you can catch a big mature deer out walking around before October 20th during daylight hours. They're not just 100% nocturnal.
Yep.
Now, you put some pressure on them, and they might become nocturnal pretty quickly.
You could do that in the
It
afternoon
might
too,
not
though.
be very tolerable.
Right.
Yep.
And you could do that at any time of the year.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
All right. Next one.
Moon phases. How big of an impact, or do they have an impact on deer movement?
Do you want to do the same order, or you want to switch?
We'll take turns.
Sure.
We'll go around.
go
You
ahead.
go first this time, and then he goes first.
Is
next
there
time.
a word for, or I know there's a word for it, but is there an option for when you don't pick either? I'm going to pick or. Fact or fiction, I say or, because
How about indifferent?
Sure, indifferent. I was just making a joke. It's fact or fiction. I'm in between. The reason I say that is because moon phases as a whole, no, I would say fiction. Moon phases, though, obviously like a full moon, that's a type of moon phase. I would say that there's some validity to. This is why I'm indifferent, because I've tried to pay attention to some of them, but I'm also overloaded with trying to learn other things about deer. I'm not focusing just on moon phases right now. But I would say that there are times where I feel like the movement is significantly different when there's a full moon or when there's not. Now, I don't know them well enough to be seeing like a waxing crescent moon, this, that, and the other gives them no movement at night, all movement during the day. I don't see that, nor do I necessarily, I can't put a lot on it because I don't pay that much attention to it. But with the amount that I am hunting, I could look at the dates and the days that I'm hunting and everything and look at the moon phases, and I'm not seeing that significant different in movements throughout or patterns necessarily throughout those moon phases and throughout the season. So that's where I have a hard time believing that, like the whole moon dial thing, dial this and I'm going to see it's going to be amazing tomorrow because of the moon. Everybody I talked to the other day just said that it was going to be a terrible day to hunt.
What the heck is a moon dial?
And it's one of these,
Yeah, they
that's
make
a
one.
really popular thing.
Twisted, and it's just another one of these apps that
Well,
tells
it's
you.
not, well, I think they have an app now.
Well, but I
it's-
mean, there's a lot of them that that's what your forecasting is based on. I think that there's an app that does it. I know that there is the DNR in Iowa has a deal that you can look at, and it'll tell you whether it's a good, bad, for fishing and hunting. And
Forecasting for that?
yeah,
You're saying
and-
forecasting the
weather.
moons too. There's the moon dial was designed around the moon phases and everything, and what days are going to be your best days to have your target deer and stuff. And that I don't believe because of a lot of the different things of the amount. Every place is different. Like there's your deer. Yes, as a whole, they may operate somewhat similarly, but like earlier this week, you guys all had terrible sits, and Shane was showing me an app that said it was a bad day to hunt. It wasn't a good day to hunt. All this crap, and I had the most deer I've seen all year, including mature bucks that I have seen all year. So I think that there's variance to it, I guess is my point.
Gotcha.
I think moon phases are totally whack. I don't think it makes any difference at all. I think
We knew that one was coming.
Yeah.
Just like he doesn't believe in scent control.
Yep, you're dang right. And the only reason is from paying attention to it. I paid attention to the moon phases for a while, and days that there was supposed to be a lot of deer, I didn't see. Days that there wasn't supposed to be any deer, I saw a lot. And after like 3 or 4 times that, I was like, all right, I'm done with the moon. That don't mean nothing. So I don't think moon phases make any impact on the deer.
All right. Are you done? Or are you?
Some of these of your opinions, you're normally very good about giving yourself a large amount of things to study to give you a good representation. This is just like you in fantasy football. You get 2 weeks of a bad player. Yep, screw it, I'm out. You don't give them a whole freaking when you go.
Why should I take your advice? We have the same record.
I don't say. Well, that's valid. I'm not saying take my advice. I'm talking about the fact that when you do a study on anything, you have to have a large pool of what you're pulling from to get an accurate representation. If you saw it 2 or 3 times where it's different, you really don't have a great representation to say, oh, it doesn't work.
Not a ton, but I paid attention to it enough times that I felt like, okay, this isn't making any noticeable enough impact to even waste my time with this. It's just like being suspicious, right? Or not suspicious, superstitious.
Yep.
Like I will put
That's that 5th grade spelling.
when I get in the stand, if I'm sitting in the stand for a couple days and I haven't seen a good buck or anything, I'll change the arrow, and then all of a sudden I see good deer. And do I really, honestly, completely believe that it's because I changed that arrow? No. But
He's not
at the same time, it's like I might as well try and change it up and see if it has some juju. Like, I think that's what most people that believe in the moon is. It's like
he
gives them
doesn't-
some juju to.
He's not superstitious. He's just a little stitious.
All right. I
Yes.
disagree with you guys on. I think the moon does have an effect, and I think that and there's certain times that it has more of an effect than others. I will be the first to admit that I don't know it well enough to be able to sit here and say it doesn't work. I agree with you. I've watched some of the things that say you should see this. No matter what, you'll find a flaw in everything. Meaning it can be it's supposed to be the perfect day, and you talk to 5 guys and they all saw 50 deer. But then you talk to one, he didn't see a single deer. You were sitting in the wrong spot.
Yep.
But I've also seen the exact thing that happened the other day. It was supposed to be a horrible day, according to this app, and I did have a horrible day. Never saw a single deer. I saw one. And then we talked to you, and you saw 25. So, I mean, it's one of those things that you cannot base your hunting solely on that. If you had to pick your days off of work and things like that, that I would say, yeah, I want to look at some of that stuff and see. I'm going to put as much in my corner as I can. But here's what I'd also say is I believe that weather outweighs the moon. Meaning the weather, you could have the right moon and the right weather, the wrong weather, and you might not see much. You could have the wrong moon and the right weather, and you probably are going to see good stuff. So I think the weather plays a much more important role than the moon does, or it trumps the moon.
One of the oldest sayings in hunting, and I think that's what it should really come down to instead of trying to pick and choose when to hunt, when not to hunt, is you ain't going to kill them sitting on the couch.
That's
so
true.
as long as you're hunting certain spots where you know you got the right wind, you can get in and out, and you're not putting tons and tons of pressure on certain things or whatever, go hunt. Who cares what the freaking app says? Who cares what the moon is saying? Who cares? There's always something that's going to happen that's whack. So if you have the ability to, and you're questioning, oh, I've got Saturday off or I've got Monday off, I don't know if I want to go hunt or not, go hunt. You have zero chance if you don't. So
You're skipping ahead.
well, I'm just going off of what he was saying there.
structure
I
for
have
once.
people that have asked me this year multiple times, do you think today's worth hunting? Yes.
Every
Do you
day's
have
worth-
availability
yeah.
to hunt today?
Yeah,
And they
go.
said, yeah. I said, it's worth hunting. Go.
Which I do think there's more information to that, though.
The day that I would tell
think,
you,
like,
To
if you,
what?
like, if you only have 20 acres to hunt or something, and there's one big deer on there and you're trying to kill it,
Mm-hmm.
I would not tell you to be hunting every chance that you can.
That's
'cause
why I
you're
just
gonna-
said if you're
gonna-
going in the right places, you have the right winds, or you have the right place where you're not putting a ton of pressure on it, hunt
There was-
wherever you want, whenever you want,
but
do it.
what we're not taking into the day that I would tell someone if that's the case that you got 20 acres, you just got a small piece of ground to hunt, and you know you got a big deer and you can't move and go chase him somewhere
And
else.
that's the only thing you're willing to
That-
shoot, then
Then the day you want to avoid more than the moon or whatever is the day when there's no wind at all. That day is you are nothing but a scent bomb sitting there, and it just bloop, 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 and
sounds a lot like that.
it does,
too.
and then you're gonna spook every deer in the country.
I just use a cover scent.
Just eat a cover scent.
No, he just
Yeah.
uses
No,
it.
it's, yeah.
Whatever.
You know, I just put my scent control in and
My point is not
Oh,
necessarily
good.
just go hunt all the time. It's if you have the ability and you want to hunt and you're questioning whether or not it's worth it or not, and you have somewhere you could hunt, go hunt.
okay. Now can we move to the next question that is in order?
Sure. I don't like his mood today.
We, for one time in our life, we have a.
I
template,
write a list every
and
time, and
you
you guys
go
never
off
stick
and
to it.
Go rogue. Freaking
Warren's wacky facts.
Subway,
okay,
dude. People enjoy it.
let's go.
Deer won't move in inclement weather. Excessive wind, excessive rain, excessive cold. I think this one kind of each
This
of
one
them
could
is
be
a little
tough.
different.
Yeah.
You're first. So
Oh yeah, I am first. Okay. I do believe deer will move in
Well,
excessive
you,
wind.
You got to say fact or fiction.
Both.
That's
It depends on each one. Deer won't move in excessive wind. Fiction. Okay, because I think like we have certain places now. I do believe that deer don't enjoy necessarily being in super high winds. That I would say is almost a fact. Now, if it's during the rut, I don't think they care. But does and stuff, if it's 40-mile-an-hour wind, I don't think that you're going to find a whole bunch of deer on the top of the hill in the field. Usually what you see is they're over on the other side where the wind's not pounding them or in a bottom. Like windy days, we have a spot that is just flipping money every time because the deer just pile in there.
Or I feel like they're skittish.
Yeah, well, it's
Seems
super
like any
skittish.
little thing is like, ooh.
We saw that the other day. Nick and I, on a super windy day, we watched deer like freaking out.
Yeah.
Like I mean,
Like a piece of grass touches them
Yep.
and they're running.
I think it's because they can't smell anything.
Probably.
that
And they
partly,
can't hear
and
either.
their vision is messed up because things are moving all
Yeah.
over the place. Their hearing is way jacked. They can't pinpoint where some. So
We
they
were trying too hard. We just need to go like this all the time, and you can just walk right up to them. They think you're the wind.
Yeah, okay.
okay. So
I think that rain, honestly, I don't even know on rain because I think I've seen sometimes where every deer in the country seems to be out and others where it's not. But at the same time, we don't hunt a lot in the rain because we have camera gear and everything. I would say after rain is fact. Like that is
Well,
always some of the best hunting I've
It's not
seen.
inclement weather.
Extreme cold, I would say unseasonal, extreme cold shuts them down. I would say that's a fact because I will go out, thinking those rare times in October or early November and it's 0 or like -5.
It's like, what the heck?
Like you and I did last year. I'm thinking, and there's snow, but it's not super windy and it's kind of calm. Like there's going to be deer everywhere. And it seems like every time I always think that and I don't see anything. And
I think that's the same thing too with excessive heat. When it's random, like all of a sudden you get a heat wave. It's what the heck?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that I've thought for a long time that was like, oh, it's going to be game over. And I think that now my theory would be that the deer just hunker down. They don't go to food because they don't necessarily need to. It's not like it's winter yet. Like they seem to know this is going to pass in a day or two, and they just kind of hunker down and wait it out.
all right. So my thoughts on wind first. Excessive wind. If you were to live in Montana or Iowa and you were not going to hunt deer when the wind was blowing very hard, you're not going to get to hunt very often.
Yeah, that's true.
So my point is they get used to the wind. They deal with it. Does it make them antsy? Does it make it more difficult for you? 100%. But they'll still deal with it. And so I think that deer will still move in high winds. They don't prefer it, but and then when it comes to, I guess, rain or snow, when we're talking inclement weather, that when we're talking, I think, what's the word you used? Excessive.
Inclement.
Yeah, but you said excessive. If it's excessive, meaning it's a thunderstorm or it is raining hard, profusely raining, you're not going to see much deer movement. But if it's a rainy day like what we just had 2 or 3 days of where it was a misty rain all day long, I have no problem. But we have to be in a blind in order to do that with camera gear, or you got to keep everything covered up. So and now snow, same thing. If it's snowing so hard, you can't even. I mean, if it's snowing that hard, you can't see to shoot. Can't shoot at anything. And I've seen that where the other problem with that, especially with bow hunting, is I've watched in my arrow build up with snow on it, and then you're trying to wipe everything off, and it's frozen on there. And just a lot of mistakes can happen during that time. Mm-hmm. And then the other one, excessive cold or excessive heat. I agree with you guys to an extent that I personally think that I even see.
You're agreeing with him.
Okay, well, I personally think that anytime there's a major weather change, hot or cold, in the summertime, think about this the next time you're scouting. You get a day where it's been 95 degrees all summer long, and all of a sudden you get a day where it's only going to be a high of 70. And it goes down to the 50s. You think, man, I'm going to drive around tonight and see every deer in the country because this feels, and you don't. You won't see them. Now, if it stays like that for two days, boy, all the deer are on their feet the second day. But it takes them a little bit to seem like that they are like, what happened here? And so then they get used to it and then they move. But anyhow, so on excessive cold days, I agree when we're talking like bitter cold, when it's brand new. Now, if it sticks around, if you end up with the Iowa weather that we bank on for cold for our late season, you want that cold because it means they got to come to a food source. They don't have a choice. But when it's drastically just comes in and there it is. And I agree with you made the comment about excessive heat. However, again, I just sat with Shane on a 90-degree day, and he killed a tremendous deer. So there's a
We'll
there's
get
a
to that
break
in
in
a minute, 'cause
every
that's
rule.
not my theory on it one bit.
All right. Well, there you have mine.
Wind, I think they're moving and they're doing their thing, but I hate it. I can't stand, like, out of all weather, I would rather have every bit of weather except for wind. I absolutely hate it, so I have a hard time making myself hunting it, although I do. And the other thing too about wind that sucks is that when your tree's blowing around and stuff, you better start shooting a lot closer than what you were anticipating. Rain, I disagree with you on that one. And here's what I was like: when it's downpouring and it's just a crappy thunderstorm, I think it's going to shut them down. I think, like what he said right afterwards, you're going to be great. And now I do also think that depends on the length of the storm. If it's just like you get a downpour for an hour or two, whatever, it's not really, I don't think it's going to really do much. Now, if it's raining for multiple days on end, and at the tail end of that, heck yeah. Now, my least favorite one is what we had the other day. The misty crap that's just wind blowing and everything. I'm 100% opposite on that. I think it completely shuts them down, and they hate it because I had told Joey that I had hunted through it, and I did not like it, but I did, and I didn't see a whole heck of a lot. But on Sunday, the day that it was supposed to at least start to stop, it was supposed to be better the next day, or maybe a Saturday night, whatever night it was. The next day was supposed to be an actually decent weather. So in our heads, I was thinking, okay, that morning is going to be worth it. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, if you're looking at outside, it seems like this is going to break, and maybe at least stop. I would be willing to bet if we can get a consistent break in it and it's going to give us some time, this evening is going to be pretty freaking awesome. And we went and sat that night, and it had done that misty crap, and I hadn't seen anything for like 2 or 3 days. I mean, I'd seen some, but not very much movement. And it broke out. Like, the moment that stopped, golden. But I was telling him that I can't stand hunting the misting, just spitting rain here and there crap.
Especially when it's warm, humid to it.
Yeah, I don't
Seems like it really kills it.
I don't know why. It seems like everything I see is not moving on that. So maybe your deer just like it. I don't know. And then the other one was cold. I think I'm gonna
extreme cold.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna stick with Warren on that because it seems like when you get those cold snaps, like where it just flips, and you on that, it's just, I think it's too much for them to. That you got in my head, the way I think of it is a deer is living through obviously 4 seasons of, like here in Iowa, they might go from anything from 90 to 100 degrees all the way to negative 20 degrees. So they have time, though, in between seasons where they're acclimating to that weather and whatever's coming up in the next season. So I think that when we have a day in the fall where it's normally 40s and 50s and it drops down to 10 degrees, they're like, oh, we're not ready for this. Same thing with us. Like, when you're in the winter and you're coming out of winter, 40 degrees feels like a freaking heat wave. But then you go into it out of summer, you're like, oh, crap, this is cold as heck. And so I think that that does shut them down. Excessive fluctuations, high or low, as far as cold or hot temps.
Do you know if they go straight from their summer coat to their winter coat, or they kind of have like a fall coat?
Well, right now I'm pretty sure their fall coat is them growing their winter coat.
That would be correct.
Okay.
But it's still, you think about, you look at the difference in hides, especially if you've got 2 mounted, one you killed in October, one you killed in November. There's a
they're definitely shorter.
Massive difference.
Yeah, in my office, it's the one I killed early October is a gorgeous cape, and then the one we killed last year, late November. He's a totally different color. It's thick, and he just looks beat up.
So let's flip this question a little bit. What is, in your opinion, what is the absolute best, most ideal conditions to see a deer? Like if there's one forecast you look at and you're like, and you see that day on there, and you're like, oh shit, what is that? Describe to me the temperature, the wind, is it overcast? Is it sunny? Is it cloudy?
If I could pick my favorite, I would say it's 35 to 40 degrees.
In the morning or in the evening?
It's rained all night, and the rain has quit right before daylight as I'm climbing in my stand, and I got a 10-mile-an-hour breeze that's keeping my wind just perfect in the right direction, and it's going up to maybe 50 degrees, that 45 to 50 degrees that day.
Did you say
And
overcast?
I hadn't got there yet. And I'm saying that you got some remnant clouds, but no chance of rain.
Okay.
And so I just, holy cow, I think that every deer in the country is moving at that time.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would, I just laid it up. I mean, but you don't get those that many times.
Yeah.
Mine would be mid-30s. Mine's going to be very similar to yours, but mid-30s in that sprinkling, spit and rain stuff that I was just talking about, where you have it for multiple days, and preferably later in like October, like when they're already starting to move a lot on their own, but enough where they have that cold rain, cold weather, that they're not doing much. That next morning, you've got a pretty consistent wind. It breaks, but the only difference I would have with you is I do not want like clouds in and out kind of thing. I want to still have a complete overcast. Like I can't stand when you come out of those, like where you come out of those crappy weathers, systems and everything, and then you have the sun where it gets super, super bright, and then it goes away, and then super, super bright. I don't know if there's anything to it. I just can't stand that, and I feel like they aren't moving as much as when I have it break, and it's still just an overcast, but they know that it's done. They know it's done. They've gotten overcast. It's still pretty chilly, and they're rolling now. That's my favorite.
I like 27 to like 33 in the morning.
So if it's 34, he ain't doing it.
No, I'm saying ideal. 27 to 34, 33 in the morning, and 7-8 mile an hour wind and clear. I like a clear sky, and then I feel like in the evening I don't really want to go in 45 to 50, and that seems to be, in my opinion, when it just every morning it's like you don't have to question if the deer are moving. Like they're friggin' moving. You know, like when you go and sit somewhere like Gobbler Knob, where I shot 4 does the other day, and really you could probably go there and be 30 minutes after daylight, and you're gonna be just fine. And then you give it about an hour, and here they all come. That would be probably mine. I don't like it though when it's dead still like that and real cold. I don't like that.
What's our? Do we have another, or we have more?
Well, one was, should you listen to apps or technological items on whether or not you should go hunting or not?
No.
Well,
Fiction.
You're listening to this one right here, and it's just our opinion.
Yeah.
So
There's a great chance you probably shouldn't listen to any of this.
So, but just keep in mind that
I listen to one app,
there's nothing. What app?
the Weather Channel, and I don't even listen to that. I call BS on half of it, but it gives me the wind direction.
They're
That's
wrong
what I
a
like.
lot.
Not always does it give the correct wind direction.
No, but it gives me an idea of what's going to be in the morning.
Right.
I think it could be a great thing for maybe somebody who's a new hunter to be able to learn and kind of get an idea of what they're looking for. But just because an app's telling me that it's not the best conditions or something, I'm not. Shoot, I don't hardly listen to people, much less am I going to listen to an app. No way.
I would almost say that the beginner that's the last place they want to be.
Well, you got to imagine you have no idea what you're looking for. You got no clue what is good, what's bad. Maybe you think that when it's supposed to be really hot, like I think that we forget all, and I'd say I mean the entire hunting community that's been fortunate enough to have somebody else show them. We forget how much we know, because most people, when you explain to them that a deer will smell you 100 yards away, they're like, "What?" Like
Yeah.
you would need to be concerned about which way the wind is blowing. Where all of us, that's probably one of the first things that we're thinking about.
The reason I say that though is because I think that as a beginner, as long as you can learn or somebody has taught you one thing, and that is hunting the proper winds and learning number one, learning what direction the wind is blowing, and number two, what you want, like trying to figure out, okay, I think this area, I know those deer are somewhere that way. Okay, I want the opposite wind. As long as you can figure that out. The reason I say that's the worst place for a beginner hunter is because they don't have the ability or the knowledge yet to question on a day where it's saying, don't do this, don't do that, you're going to waste your time, or do this, do that. Then they're going to be, one, learning something that could be not even relatively true, and then they're set in that way. Or number two, they could be going to do something or not do something because of an app. I think that as long as you
Okay, but
know
what if
wind,
they go and they
go
sit?
learn it, screw something up. That's fine. But
What if they have no knowledge? Nobody's told them about the wind. And then they go and sit 5 days in a row and it's 83 degrees.
I'd be doing the
And
same thing.
that they have they can't figure out now how come I've sat 5 days in a row and I haven't seen anything. I haven't seen a deer
Yeah,
yet.
all
And if
I'm
they had
saying
an
is
app
that
that was saying as well, bad, 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 maybe they look at that and they go, oh, well, maybe I'm not doing something that's completely wrong. Maybe the weather has had an impact that much that it's not necessarily where I'm positioning myself. It's not where I'm sitting. It's not what I'm doing. It's just the fact that they're not moving that much with this temperature.
That right there is why I'd say don't pay attention to it, because learn the very basic things and go fail, go screw something up. The app could be telling you that it is the weather. Horse crap, it could be you. Or you could be doing it all perfect and it is the weather, and the app's sitting there telling you the opposite. They have
So
no
if
way
you
of
have
knowing.
no base of
No way of-
knowledge, how is that a
You have to
beneficial thing?
learn one. It's not beneficial on the app. That's my point, is that you could be learning the exact opposite things. Because if I was a beginner hunter, the exact example I just had earlier, I'd be walking out. I wouldn't have even hunted at all. I wouldn't have learned anything because I wouldn't have hunted that night because it was a bad day to hunt. I had bad weather, I had bad wind, I had all this stuff. But I hunted because I am lucky enough to have the experience and knowledge that I think that it was going to be worth it. So I'm saying that I could understand that when I look at that app, I'm not going to listen to that app because I know the difference. But if I'm somebody that's brand new and I go listen to that app, now I'm just gypping myself, not going, or I am going, or whatever else. Go watch a YouTube video on what is the most important thing, or how to learn how to hunt the wind. And if you are
Okay.
listening to this and you're a beginner hunter,
What
do
say
wind.
you?
So I guess the very first thing that I would say is that the one thing that you keep mentioning is the wind, the wind, the wind, the wind, the wind, the wind, which is what, and so for that person that's listening out there, just so that you understand, because I run into people every year that don't understand south wind means the wind is coming out of the south. It's blowing to the north and vice versa. I mean, if it's a west wind. And so other than the weather, I mean, I think that people, I mean, other than the wind, I think that you listening to an app, it depends on what you're listening to. Should you listen to them and gather information, because hopefully they'll teach you about grunt calls, and I'm talking about a deer making a grunt, the grunt call, the rattling antlers, what you're trying to mimic. Hopefully you're going to learn a lot of that stuff. So yes, I say listen to it. Now the specific ones that are to tell you whether or not you should go hunting or not that particular day, I think that you have to take it with a grain of salt, because you might not understand what the weather is going to do, and the weather can trump some of that sometimes. Like you're talking about 83 degrees for the next 5 days. Maybe you don't pick those 5 days to go hunting, but maybe understand that this is probably not the optimal time to go. So
I see those as more of a learning thing for me at this point in my stage, because I'm seeing what they're saying and what they're doing or why they're doing it, and how I could contest it or not contest it and learn why that one does work or does not work. If I'm a beginner, I have no way to do that. I have no way to take what's good and
All I'm thinking
bad.
of is I'm putting myself into positions of things that I've done before where I had no idea. Like I had no clue what I'm doing. And for instance, when I built an app, okay, like I had no idea. I couldn't ask you. I couldn't ask
Dang, Dan.
I couldn't ask anybody else about how to do any of that stuff. And I used a whole bunch of things that anytime it confirmed that I was doing something right, that was a huge help for me to know, okay, I did do this correctly, and then it did work. Or had other things that didn't work. I think that just if somebody doesn't have the access to information and knowledge that, because we all know, sure, you can listen to a YouTube video and stuff. There's nothing like having somebody in the field helping you understand those things. I don't think it should be an end-all, be-all, but I do think that it could give a beginner some reference of things and help them figure out these things on their own.
You have a constant there, though, of your outcome. There is a right way and a wrong way to do it. Hunting, there is no right way, or like there's always, I could do it one way, you could do it one way, he could do it another way, and we all could come out the same exact outcome. Or we could all be hunting different places with the same weather and different things and have completely different circumstances or outcomes as well. That's where I think.
Well, for
it's gonna
many
overwhelm.
years there were no apps. and people were hunting and people were learning but without a doubt, the learning curve was slower. You have all this information right at your fingertips. So I'm all about, I mean, it was no different back then. You relied on a magazine or you relied on TV stuff. You watch stuff on television, you listen to stuff, but none of it, absolutely none of it can even hold a candle to what just going and experience that you gain in the field. And I think that leads to what you're saying. If you have someone you can trust, that's far better than any app. If you talk to another hunter and they're willing to give you an answer, and that's what we do try to do. We try to answer as many people as we possibly can on through social media, on people asking about hunting and whether they should use scents or whether they should call or whether they should approach this. How would you guys handle this farm? What would you plant? We're trying to pass on information, not because we know more than someone else, but we have gotten to do it a lot more. We've been blessed to have this as what we do. And so we do get to do it. So we go out and we make mistakes. And we learn from those mistakes, hopefully, and we can help pass on to someone, hey, don't do that. We've seen a lot of, and the one thing that you keep hearing us say is wind, wind, wind. All of the questions on there all kind of are irrelevant because they're not irrelevant, but they all fall to one thing. If you can keep the wind in your favor where you're hunting, then you probably should be hunting.
Yep.
Because if it's raining real hard or it's snowing real hard or it's really hot, but you're not bothering the deer because you got the wind in your favor and they don't know you're there, you're not hurting a thing.
Yep.
You're gaining knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my 2 cents.
Go hunt.
That was like 88 cents.
Yeah.
More than 2 cents.
Couple cents.
Yeah. What else?
If it had been 100 cents, that'd be $1.
Ooh.
Look at that 5th grade math coming out again. Next.
At least my reading level's still not there. Boom.
That was a really bad one.
I don't know what he
You're
was
just
saying.
mad because I roasted you.
It's okay.
I roasted you like that almond, you peach.
Yeah, that did. It still made no sense. All right, go
It
on.
was from our wacky fact last week.
You're just really, really bad
Do we
at
want
roasts.
to do
He
this
lo- he
last one,
missed
or do
the
we want
witty
to try
gene.
to sign off so that you can go
Don't
hunting?
get in a tree?
Yeah.
What is the last one? We can touch on it.
That's
quick.
why I'm afraid of it. Deer won't do the same thing twice.
Ooh, boy. We should do it. We should talk about it.
Okay.
Because I'll be the one that I
What about
make.
the deer and heat one? That was a good one.
We covered that with inclement weather.
No, because you'll sit there and say you never hunt hot weather.
Yeah,
They
I don't.
ever
I don't
move in
hunt it because I don't want to, not
Oh.
because of deer.
Oh, just for the record, I think deer still move when it's hot.
Well, I know they do. I
Yeah.
watched Shane. I filmed Shane shoot a buck the other day, and it was hot. All right.
Deer don't do the same thing twice, or wild animals don't do the same thing twice.
They just seem to randomly change their activities, and I'm the one that I make that comment a lot. And there's been one deer that I can say made me eat my words, and that was Junior.
So when you say the same thing twice, well, you better specify a little bit more on what
yeah.
you mean by that.
Because there are times a year that they do exactly the same thing twice. Like in August here, where when you can't hunt, you can time a deer what time he's going to enter a bean field.
So you're saying, though, a deer won't hit a scrape twice,
May
a
not-
deer won't walk by a certain thing twice, a deer won't do what twice?
I'm saying that if you have a buck that comes by and hits a scrape at 5 o'clock on October 27th, 5 o'clock one evening, he's probably not coming back at 5:10 the next day or 4:50. Will he come back to that scrape? Probably. But will it be day after day? Chances are no. Chances are he's not going to do that exact same thing twice.
Okay, so you're saying very, very specific, though. You're not saying that deer won't hit that scrape again during daylight.
Correct.
You're saying that he won't hit it to the same minute
Right.
that he did the last time.
Right. He's got too many variables going on. However, we had a particular deer that totally threw me off several years ago that you and Mom were hunting. And because I was the one that said I didn't want, when she told me we wanted to go back like the 5th time, I'm like, this is pointless, and he walked out the trail. And that was in the peak of the rut. And I don't know how many, I think you had 3 or 4 times he walked out.
I had
there.
at least 4.
That
So
he
you
walked
should have
it.
known by then that it wasn't pointless because he did it 4 different times.
Yeah, but I kept thinking there's no way, this makes no sense that during the rut, this buck is walking out the same trail at roughly the same time every
He was
afternoon.
an old, mature buck,
and he
too.
was a
And
fully
big.
mature deer.
And it was the exact same trail. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
literally exact same trail. I never timed it, though. I don't know if he was coming out at the same.
Oh yeah, it was.
Yeah, I mean,
because he was
close.
When I
right?
filmed you, you always knew that it was within about 15 minutes. I think is what 15 to
Yeah,
15 to 30 minutes. You're like, he'll be here.
Well, because
I'm
it
like, all right,
wasn't. He
sounds
didn't wait
good.
till dark. If you remember, he was coming way before dark.
I know. If you saw a doe on that trail,
Get ready.
grab
he's
your
coming.
bow.
Yeah, he's
Yep.
coming. Yeah, he would come out 45 minutes to an hour before it was actually dark.
Yeah, I remember that.
I would go with fact and fiction on that because when you first started teaching me that, I think I took it too literal, and I didn't. I thought that it was just like when you see him do something, well, because then it started making like if this is really backing up to my beginner days, I would be sitting there thinking, well, why is our stand in the same spot? Like they're not going to do the same thing twice, so who's going to say they're going to freaking come by again? What do you mean? But the more I've learned now, I think that I go off of, and this could be totally like whack, and I can't even give you a ton of validity to it, but I feel like I give myself 2 to 3 days. Like if I see a big majority of deer doing something, or I see a few deer do something, or for instance, I see a buck coming to hit a scrape, or I check a camera and he's done it 2 days in a row, I better freaking be there the third day because I'm either going to get him that day, in my opinion, or I've already missed his little short habit of doing something. And so I agree with the statement of they're not going to continually do the same things all the time, but I think that there's always some form of pattern that they're doing. I think people give them too much credit for how random they do things, especially like during the rut. I've found that I've watched multiple bucks last year. They weren't on a pattern like what you're saying of like they're coming out within 5-10 minutes the same night, same trail, this, that, and the other. But I knew what spot or what area they were going to be in about at what time or within a couple days. And now I know that sounds like a lot, but I could see a pattern where he's here this day. Okay, if I know he's there, he's going to be there tomorrow, and then here and the next day, and then he's going to be right back to there square one. And so I've learned to give it some space, I guess, of no, they're not going to just continually do the same thing all the time when they've got so many different things going on during the season or during the rut. But if you can find something doing it twice, well, a lot of times if you see them doing it the second time, you're probably already too late. But if you have an idea that they're going to do it twice, trust it, and you might actually end up having that freaking buck or deer or whatever there that third day, and you might get lucky. Otherwise, you're still chasing them. But so I think there's both ways.
I think it completely matters on the deer. Like there's some deer where I think that there is no pattern. Like you want to talk random, like just like there's some people that they don't know what town they're going to be in tomorrow night. Nomad. Yeah, you were not that deer. You weren't putting any pattern to him. He was freaking everywhere.
Yep.
I think you have others like a junior, where I don't know if is he just like the old person, that just wants to go home every night and do the same thing, or was he like? I think that deer was being. Yeah, I think he was being deliberately smart enough that he was pushing does into that same area where he was really comfortable, and so I think he was going out at night, finding a hot doe, and forcing her to go back into that same spot just because he liked doing it. But
I think that's also a form of core area shrinking.
I don't know. I mean, that was weird.
Because it sure seems like, he was an older. What did he end up going, 5 or 6?
But then you have other deer too, like a Ralph, where Ralph was sometimes was somewhat consistent, but at the same time, I don't know where the flipping deer was the rest of the time.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that like you'll have a 5 or 6 year old deer that maybe his core area isn't all that small. Then you have a junior that I would think that his area, he's like, nope, I am more than content right here, and I'm going to stay right here. I've got my food, I've got my water, I've got my does.
I think the fact with that is it varies. Mm-hmm. It just depends on the deer.
I think the time of year can play a big factor on it as well. Because early in the season, you can still pattern a deer. Shane's deer, again, would be one. He knew that he had come out one evening before when he got a trail camera photo of him, went back, saw him the next evening, almost got a shot at him, went back the third evening, and I went with him and filmed, and he walked right back out and did it again.
Yep.
And then late season is another one where it flips, and then because they are on food,
Yeah.
and they're predictable to some extent. So yeah, but during the rut is when Junior's the only one I've ever seen in all my years of hunting that you could say he had a freaking pattern during the rut.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't even say he had a pattern. He just had a flat-out habit.
Should
He
have got
was
him
never
killed.
stopping that or
And-
changing it.
I mean, that tells you right there. Like, we sound like the worst hunters ever. You had a 170-inch deer come out the same exact spot 5 days in a row, and you couldn't kill him.
Well, he had the opportunity to be shot.
He got really lucky.
Yeah, he did.
Really, really lucky.
The thing that saved him was the hay bale blind.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The hay bale
and that
blind, not the-
grass. Because if
the-
Warren was sitting there the one day,
Yeah.
he would be on Warren's wall at the moment.
Well, I had him at 16 the one day.
Yeah,
and-
but the blind didn't have the right window.
Yep.
All right, you got a wacky fact?
I do.
I think he even wrote it down.
I did. I don't know why, but the
cannot
Guinness
believe
Book
that.
of World Records was created solely to settle bar arguments. That makes 100%
I can see that.
sense. Too many people were arguing over stuff at a bar, and so they decided we're going to make a book that's got says the official origin story
is
for
the
the Guinness
best or
Book of
something.
World Records, the annual book that catalogs all of human achievements, is that it was used to settle an argument over whether the golden plover or the red grouse is the fastest game bird in Europe. It's the plover. One of the people arguing, Sir Hugh Beaver, the managing director of the Guinness Brewery, noted that the answer was hard to find in reference books. So he started one to settle these kinds of trivial arguments, and the Guinness Book of World Records was born in 1955.
Wait, you say Guinness Brewing?
Yeah, it started from
So
his
is it
bar.
Guinness as in the beer today or no?
I don't know. Maybe it is.
I bet it links back somewhere.
Yeah.
Holy crap. That's kind of crazy.
And then this one was funny too. I feel like we need to figure out how we get these turkeys. Some turkeys can spontaneously impregnate themselves through a process called parthenogenesis.
What?
The form of asexual reproduction where embryos can grow without fertilization is rare among birds. It's also possible for plants, bugs, and some fish.
Interesting.
That would be great for our turkey population at times.
Yeah, if they could just.
Now, the coons being open is going to be the best thing because that's going to help save a lot of eggs.
Do you know what a turkey's reproduction system is called?
No, I still can't figure out how.
Oh, Joey did.
The
Joey
deal gets
cracked
in
this
the-
It's a
code.
vent.
Damn it.
Yeah,
How did you
that's
remember
right.
that? Joey
It's so weird.
Joey taught us that. He was so mad at me one day, sitting in the blind. He's like, I'm going to figure this because
They're
Yeah.
venting.
they've got a vent from the male and a vent to the female. That's one way to do it.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go vent in a tree. I'm gonna.
Ew.
What?
Oh,
Too far.
that's screwed
Too far.
Wow, you could get that could be like
Jeez.
employer harassment or something with Nick being with you in the stand.
I wasn't talking about.
What about
Nick going
us?
With me.
Well, we're not with him in the stand. That's just screwed up to here.
Yeah, that's still
A
harassment.
You're gonna have to
different
watch
kind of
it.
Venting.
Okay, yeah.
We'll call HR. Hello.
I was
Talk
going
to
to answer
yourself.
for you.
David, you've been fined $1,000 to
All
Warren.
right. All right, guys. Thank
Screw
you,
you,
for-
man.
You guys got to shut up there, just nonstop.
I
And
wanted part of that.
we wanted to thank you
$1,000.
guys today for joining the Raised Hunting Podcast, and we hope that you today. I think you might have picked up a tip or two out of what we were talking about there, because I do think some of those are seriously fiction, some are fact, and somewhere in there, the whole thing about going hunting. Just go hunting. It's truly fun.
Let us know if you guys think they're fact or fiction. It would be interesting to hear everybody's thoughts.
Yeah.
We out.